This is Orlando, Florida. Between 2010 and 2020, its metro area grew by more than 500,000 people. And since then, growth has only accelerated, with the city adding approximately 76,000 new residents only between the years of 2023 and 2024, bringing its population to nearly 3 million and making it the fastest growing large metro in the entire country. And it's not hard to see why. Orlando is home to some of the largest employers in the world: Disney, Universal, and a growing number of healthcare and tech companies. Its international airport is one of the busiest in America. It is relatively affordable compared to the likes of Miami or New York. And like the rest of Florida, there is no state income tax. To many people, it seems like the perfect place to move, but there is a big problem. Despite all the growth and economic opportunity, Orlando has also become one of the most poorly designed major cities in America, with endless traffic, extensive urban sprawl, and poor infrastructure. And the consequences of that design are starting to catch up fast. So what exactly went wrong with Orlando's growth, and is there a way to fix the city's issues? Orlando wasn't always a major city. In fact, for most of 20th century, it was relatively small, mainly sustained by agriculture and military activity. But when Walt Disney announced the construction of Walt Disney World in the 1960s, Orlando's trajectory changed overnight. The region transformed into a global tourism destination and population growth exploded. Between 1970 and 2000, the metro area more than tripled in size, going from approximately 300,000 to over 1 million residents, and ever since, it hasn't stopped growing. By the 2010s, Orlando had cemented itself as Florida's fastest growing major metro, even surpassing Miami and Tampa in growth rate. Today, nearly 2.7 million people live in the Orlando metropolitan area, and projections suggest it could reach up to 3.5 million within the next decade if the current pace continues. But here's where the design issues come into the picture. Unlike older cities that developed around walkable cores and rail systems, Orlando's modern growth came almost entirely during the era of suburban sprawl and car dependency. The city was built with the car in mind. Wide roads, endless subdivisions, massive highways, and very little thought given to the public transit or pedestrians. It practically consists of downtown Orlando, which is very small compared to other cities of similar size, surrounded by a bunch of low-density suburbs that stretch out for miles. As a result of the city's over-reliance on cars, traffic is a major issue. According to a report from INRIX.com, Orlando ranks as the 38th worst city for traffic in the US, with drivers losing an average of 27 hours in congestion every year. Although this is not as bad as the likes of Miami or Houston, two corridors in particular are among the absolute worst in the entire country. First, there is a stretch of I-4, which goes eastbound between exit 72 at FL 528, where drivers will spend an average of almost 3 full days in traffic annually. This places it as the 10th worst corridor in the nation. The second one is John Young Parkway southbound between Wine Street and Pleasant Hill Road, which ranks as Florida's second worst traffic corridor and 24th nationally. Here, drivers lose up to 52 hours of delays each year. When it's already this bad, the fact that hundreds of thousands of new commuters will drive on these roads in just a couple of years if the population growth continues at its current pace means that the situation is basically guaranteed to get worse. To combat this, the city's main artery, Interstate 4, is currently undergoing a massive expansion called the I-4 Ultimate, and involves the reconstruction and widening of 21 miles of I-4 from west of Kirkman Road in Orange County, Florida, through downtown Orlando to east of State Road 434 in Seminole County. However, the one more lane approach has already been shown to be ineffective at solving congestion. In many cases, it actually makes traffic worse due to induced demand, a phenomenon observed across countless highway expansion projects in the United States. Apart from congestion, Interstate 4 consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous highways in the country, and Orlando as a whole is one of the most unsafe cities for not just drivers, but pedestrians and cyclists as well. Public transit, meanwhile, is another weak point in Orlando's design. In 2024, the city welcomed 75 million visitors, an increase of 1.8% from the previous year, making it the most visited city in the entire country. And as a result, the tourism industry generated $94.5 billion in economic impact, making up a significant portion of the city's economy. So, with this in mind, you would think that Orlando would have developed a well-functioning transit system connecting all parts of the city at this point. But this is far from the reality. The bus system is underfunded and notoriously slow. The commuter rail line, Sunrail, has limited hours and coverage, and there is no major metro or light rail system. For low-wage workers who have to navigate the city without a car, relying on public transit is a daily struggle. And while tourists technically have the opportunity to use it to get around the city, most are simply better off renting a car instead if they want to avoid the hassle. Just by looking at the city from above and the things I've already mentioned, it's pretty clear that Orlando is not a walkable city. However, the extent of the lack of walkability is even worse than most people realize. A study from 2024 ranked Orlando as the least walkable city in the country, highlighting the fact that it would be quicker to fly to Disneyland Paris than to walk between Orlando's most iconic landmarks, which was deemed as Universal Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios, Disney World's Magic Kingdom, Disney World's Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and Discovery Cove. Other rankings have also placed Orlando among the absolute worst urban areas for walkability. And one report based on data from the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles between 2019 and 2021 showed that the Orlando Metro was the third deadliest for pedestrians in Florida. Housing is another issue. Median home prices have historically been relatively affordable compared to many other cities of similar sizes. But during the pandemic and the rise of remote work, prices went through the roof. In just a 3-year period, from June 2019 to June 2022, the median sale price for a home in the city grew from $243,000 to $331,000. Unlike other cities that saw a similar increase during this period, home prices in Orlando continued rising until this year, when they finally began to decline. However, because of the city's sprawl-based design, supply hasn't kept up with demand in the right places. Most new construction has focused on suburban subdivisions far outside the urban core, forcing residents into long commutes to reach jobs in the city. Also, a report from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition earlier this year ranked the Orlando metro area as the 6th worst place to find affordable housing out of the 50 biggest metropolitan areas in the US. According to the study, just 19 affordable housing units exist for every 100 extremely low-income renters in the city. Developers often focus on building for tourists or luxury buyers, rather than affordable housing for residents. And zoning laws often favor single-family homes and restrict higher-density, mixed-use housing that could ease the crunch. So, what's next for Orlando? The city is still booming, but the cracks in its design are becoming harder to ignore. Without serious investment in transit, walkability, and affordable housing, Orlando risks trapping itself in endless congestion, rising costs, and unsafe streets. But what do you think? Is Orlando destined to remain a car-dependent sprawl city, or can it reinvent itself into something better? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to ArchiTales for more.